Oops. Good motion piece. It's not even a book cover at all. And so I figure I might as well um, see if anyone wants to hang out and chat because I'm freaking bored. Last time we had a cool discussion in here, so tell me what you're working on. Tell me what you're reading. Even if you're watching this, tell me what you're working on. Tell me what you're reading. Even if you're watching this later. You know, leave it in the comments. I would be a fool not to mention this, by the way, that came out yesterday. You can get it in sexy paperback on Amazon. Crime thriller, cat and mouse crime thriller. Had a lot of fun with that one. You can find it on Amazon. There's links on my social media. There's links on my website, chadlutsky.com. I started playing a game yesterday with my wife called Stranded Deep. Deep Stranded. I think it's a sequel to a game that came out for the PC called Stranded, which I beat. It was a really cool game. Graphics weren't very good, but cool, like survival game. You got to craft stuff and survive on this island and kill crabs and things like that. This is like that. The graphics are better, and you can create more things. And there's different islands that you can get to. I downloaded it on the Xbox. So we started playing that last night, and we've been playing miniature golf too, which has been cool. I can't remember the name of the golf game that we've been playing, but that's been fun. Okay, I got my links set up so that people even know that I'm sitting here by myself doing artwork on this sexy new pad that I got. This Gaomon, I don't know how to pronounce it. Gaiman drawing pad. It's like a 22-inch drawing pad, and I've been having a lot of fun with it. I used to draw a lot when I was younger, and in the past, I don't know, decade, I've only done like graphic design using mostly photographs with minimal digital paint. And I'm trying to get more into like digital paint instead of paint. I don't even I never get my acrylics out, and I very rarely get my watercolors out. But this is, I'm trying to rekindle my passion for art um, in the digital age and incorporate it into obviously the book covers that I do, but into other stuff as well. This is not a book cover. This is like well, you can see on the thumbnail that this is a um, I don't know what this is called, but this is just something I'm doing for myself. It's kind of a social commentary on social media, and um, specifically Twitter, which I hate and I deem as pretty much a necessary evil at this point right now, until I can master Amazon ads and don't have to rely on social media to promote. But I've been having fun. It's been relaxing, man. It's been relaxing to do this, and I wish I had it hooked up so that you can see what I'm doing. But I do not have it hooked up like that, so you can't see what I'm doing. But I will post it probably today. I think I'll be done today. I've been watching lots of videos. I think it was Jennifer Bernardini gifted me a year-long subscription to something called 21 Draws, which is all these. It's like 38 courses that you can take. Just videos that you can watch. As sometimes you get assignments. It's pretty cool. Thanks, Jennifer, for that. That was awesome. And I've been going through the digital drawing with Photoshop to see if I can learn stuff that I don't already know. You never know when you're going to learn just that one little tip or trick that is going to change everything for you. And I've been spending a lot of time on Twitch watching other artists and trying to learn from them and get inspired. And yeah, it's been spending a lot of time doing that. Maybe too much. There's been some cool. I don't think I'll ever do the Twitch thing. I don't have a lot to say as far as like teaching someone, or don't know that I feel comfortable showing the process, especially since it can be really just slow and tedious. I find the whole psychology behind this thing right here very strange. I think it's very weird that we will spend time watching someone talk, do their thing, and somehow enjoy it. I just don't understand. I'm guilty of this. There's a channel that I watch. I think the channel is called Steve Talks Books, and this guy's voice. I've been on his show before. Or on his channel. He's interviewed me talking about books, of course, and his voice, man. He's like Bob Ross, just very comforting to listen to him speak. And I don't know, man. I found myself listening to. He does lots of interviews and lots of talking about books with people, and I just find comfort in his voice, strangely. And so while I'm doing the artwork, I will listen to him in the background, talk about books and talk with other people about books or movies, and it's freaking weird to me that we do this. Maybe it makes us feel less alone. And this guy does reading sprints. which sounds like the most boring thing in the world, to tune into a channel where someone is reading a book, taking a break, discussing with what he's been reading, and then chatting with others in the comment section about what they've been reading, when there's only one voice that can be heard other than the texting replies, the replies in text. And then he'll set a timer, read for 20 minutes, and it's just him sitting there doing nothing, being quiet, reading a book, and people tune in, and I've tuned in. And why are we tuning into this? What are we that lonely? Are we that bored? And I'm not making it, I'm not trying to make it sound like I think it's necessarily stupid, because I don't. I just find it interesting that we do this, that we tune into stuff like this and hang out with people. And I'm as guilty as anyone, man. I love it. And I think that it has to do with being not feeling like you're not so alone, maybe. When I was a kid, I used to have to listen to the radio all the time. And I liked the voices of people chatting in between songs and stuff, or baseball game on when my dad would have a baseball game on. And I still try to figure out why I liked that, why I needed that. Like if I was going to sleep, I had to be listening to the radio. And there's this weird psychology behind it, where is it because it made me feel less alone? Is that what this is about? If you know, let me know, because I find the whole thing freaking fascinating. I'm thickening some lines on this thing. What's cool about digital paint is that you can draw. You can use the layers. So if there's something that you don't like this thing I'm doing here, I'm not sure if I'm even going to keep it. And if I don't want to keep it, I don't have to erase anything. I'll just get rid of the layer with one click. And I love that. So that means more experimentation, taking more chances with stuff to see what colors look good, what lines look good, what shading looks good, how dark, how light. I love that. Yeah, taking more chances. I'm going to bring up my book again that came out yesterday, 3 Smile Mile, because I want everyone to read it. It's not horror. I know some people try to lump me into the horror scene, and because I have written, I guess, some horror and horror adjacent stuff. This is straight up crime thriller. It's a lot like it's True Romance meets The Graduate. More so True Romance than Graduate. What's up, Steve? Did you enjoy Terrifier 2? I saw the first one when it came out, and I don't remember a whole lot about it. I mean, remember the opening scene in the restaurant or whatever, and I remember the one scene, the Ed Gein scene, as I like to call it. You loved it way too long. That's what I'm hearing. I'm hearing it's too long. That does seem like long for for a slasher. Like 2 hours. Those lengthy ones, I feel like those should be reserved for like the more psychological, elevated stuff. Terrifier, at least the first one, is more like a shut your brain off and just enjoy enjoy it visually. Yeah, I agree, man. I love slashers, but 2 hours. Imagine if Pieces or Sleepaway Camp or Friday the 13th, if they were 2 hours long. I don't know. I love those movies, but I don't know if I want to watch it for 2 hours. Unless it's 2 hours of an extra half hour of like just sweet kills. Parts 4, 6, and 7. Why'd you skip 5? That's one of the best ones. I mean, I know it doesn't have Jason in it, but it's got the best cast of characters, I think, out of maybe all of them except for 4. The old lady in that is freaking hilarious. With the son, with the goofy son on the motorcycle. I love part 5. And I appreciate the twist, man, because at that point, part 3 and part 4 set the bar so high. what are you gonna do? Hey, what's up, Elijah? Wow, I did not expect to see you in here. I don't think you've ever tuned into any live podcast or stream thing or anything. It's good to see you, buddy. I played a game last night called remember that game Stranded? There's a new one on Xbox called, I think it's called Deep Stranded, and your mom and I started it last night. The close up of Roy's face, yeah, the reveal. But I loved that, like his son getting chopped up by the tough guy. I like that movie. I think I was kind of disappointed when I first saw it, but I really like it now. Elijah, I also downloaded what's that one? The stealthy game Sticks. I think that's what it's called. I know your brother doesn't like it, but I downloaded that and some other game that I can't remember. And Scott Webb called me the other day. He was going to start playing WoW again. He was asking me if I was, and then I told him that I had my eye on that um, expansion ever since it came out, and that it was only a matter of time before I started playing. I just had a couple books I had to finish, and then the one book that came out yesterday, I had to prepare for promotion, and so I might play some WoW this weekend. But I also told him about DayZ because he hadn't heard of it, and I told him how awesome it was and that he would love it and that we should all play. Steve, do you like Jason X? That's the one that I really, really don't like. I don't like Jason X Manhattan either, just because it's like a PG movie. Um, yeah, it's not gory. At that point, you should be upping your game with the kills, not taming it down. Yeah, Elijah, we should play some DayZ this weekend. Maybe we can get Scott to play with us. I think he's got the weekend off, and I think that he would like that game. 'Cause he's still playing Modern Warfare. When I first saw Jason Goes to Hell, uh, I watched it with my dad, my biological father. He was just a humongous gore hound, and we were always in constant search for like the goriest movies that we could find. We'd go to the video store, we'd rent all kinds of movies we never heard of, Italian stuff. And when we got Jason Goes to Hell, the kills were so great in that we really liked it. And for a while, it was kind of my favorite. And then I saw it again a couple years ago, and I was like, "This is not a good movie." I mean, there's some great kills in there. That chick getting her face shoved into her chin shoved into her face. A couple kills like that were great, but actually one of my favorite kills is in Jason X, which I can't stand, and that's the liquid nitrogen kill. That's one of the best kills in any movie. Oh, you played DayZ too, Steve? Yeah, that's a cool game, man. Cool survival game. Can get pretty intense. It's like every session that you have, you've got a story to tell. It's pretty neat. Very unpredictable. Secret Santa. That's not the one about the guy who gets I think he gets fired from his job and he kind of goes crazy. And starts like killing people. That one was cool. I don't remember what it's called though. It's kind of a gritty Christmas movie, and it had a lot to do with his job and being fired at his factory job. I think he was fired from a factory job. I can't remember. An infection movie. Okay, that wasn't this. Yeah, I didn't see that. I this year or not this year, last year, last just this couple or last month, I watched Silent Night, Deadly Night, 2 and 3. Two is or no. I watched 3 and 4. Two is essentially just a bunch of footage from one, and then 3 is horrible. It's like Frankenstein meets Reanimator, sort of. That's such a bad movie. And then part 4 was actually cool. Brian Usna is involved in there. I can't remember if he directs it or wrote it, produced it, something. But there's some actually disturbing scenes in part 4 with Clint Howard. That dude plays he is crazy. But out of all the Silent Night Deadly, and it has absolutely nothing to do with Christmas whatsoever, with the exception, I think maybe one scene uh, there's a Christmas thing on the TV or something like that. I can't remember, but that might be the best one, other than the first one. Dude, Phantasm. How can you not like Phantasm movies? They're not supposed to make sense. They're all over. That's the beauty of them. They're all over the place. I love Phantasm. I'm not saying they're all great, but that first one is just pure fever dream awesomeness. I love Phantasm. I want to write the novelization. I know it was written years ago by Don Coscarelli's wife, but it was limited to like 500 copies for some reason. Legalities that came out later or something. So I want to write a new novelization or write a book in that world. I would love to do that. Yeah, it gets a little. I don't like it when Reggie starts getting like all Evil Dead Ash. That's when I start to. I still love the movies. I still appreciate them because I love that they keep Angus Scrimm in there. I love that they keep Reggie in there because Reggie is so awesome with his horrible ponytail. But yeah, when he starts getting kind of like Bruce Campbellish, I don't like that. Yeah, I'll probably post this before too long. I'm just about done with this piece. This You think I'll hate it? Is it? It's. There's been a couple of books that I read recently that I liked the writing style, but because it wasn't linear, um, Bret Easton Ellis, the book that I read, whatever you keep reminding me of what it's called, Reformers or something like that. I liked it, but I would have liked it a little bit more straightforward telling. And then I read what's the guy's name? Pollock? No, he wrote Devil All the Time or something like that. But the I didn't read that one. I bought that one though, and it's kind of like short stories that are all connected in this town called Knock 'em Stiff is the name of the book. In this town called Knock 'em Stiff. That was cool, but again, I had a hard time remembering. Okay, now who's this character? What's their story again? And so the way it was told, but I liked the writing and I liked some of the ideas enough to grab another of his books. I just bought a book yesterday called from a author I'd never heard of before. They just posted on Twitter about their book, and I bought it. A book that just came out actually 2 days ago by C.W. Blackwell. The book is called Hard Mountain Clay. It sounds like it's a kind of a gritty Southern Gothic book. It's got a boring cover with mountains, and I love Southern Gothic stuff, so I thought I would check that. Like Ron Rash, um, and the Knock 'em Stiff thing. Informers, not Reformers. Yeah, it's your favorite of his. Okay, I still need to read Less Than Zero. I love that movie. Bizarre, huh? Yeah, I'm trying to get turned on to stuff that I just sing with music. Just stuff that I'd never heard of before. And people like yourself who like to dig deep for their entertainment instead of the mainstream. So I have the tendency to listen to people like yourself when they recommend stuff. I'm doing scratch cards as listening to the Crumbsuckers. Which Crumbsuckers album are you listening to? I bought, I think it's called Beast on My Back, at a mall on vinyl in '88 for $2, brand new in this bin. I bought. Uh, I walked out of the mall with like, yeah, the Crumbsuckers record, an Agnostic Front record, GBH, English Dogs, and Fang. And the Crumbsuckers was in the Crumbsuckers one was probably the one I ended up playing the most, and Agnostic Front. Yeah, Beast on My Back. Yeah, the first is different. Just like Corrosion and Conformity, they kind of started changing their sound. Corrosion and Conformity used to be just a straight up hardcore band, and my favorite record of theirs is Eye for an Eye, their very, very first one. It's just it's a very loud record, very obnoxious and just raw. Beast on My Back. I can't remember the name of that. My favorite song on there. Used to play it all the time. It's got such a goofy cover to it, though. Album cover. They haven't. I don't know that I've listened to Propane much. Are there dudes from Crumbsuckers in Propane? It seems like there's at least one person from a hardcore band in that band. I thought. Life of Dreams artwork, like Dealing with It. Yeah, that's DRI's best. My son went and saw DRI. Gosh, man, I can't remember how many years ago this was. Maybe 6 years ago, and he took my Dealing with It record with him and had it signed by the band for me. So awesome. I love DRI. Bass player and drummer from Crumbsuckers is in Propane. In Colombia, DRI, man, they have a huge following in. I don't know what to call the countries without sounding racist, like Brazil and places like that. I don't know what you call them, but they're big over there. All those beautiful women are. I'm always seeing these hot chicks with their DRI shirts, wearing all their DRI swag. It's hilarious. Really into them over there. Yeah, South America. I don't know why I couldn't think of that. Yeah, they're big over there. They've got good taste in music over there. They like a lot of that. A lot of crust punk and hardcore, extreme metal. Really into that stuff over there. There's a band from, I can't remember what it's. Steve, I don't know if you were into The Accused at all, but there's a band called Bandanos from somewhere in South America that sound like The Accused. You can tell they're seriously paying homage to The Accused, and they're good. Yeah, they're called Bandanos. And I think they actually did a split 7-inch with The Accused, or The Accused AD, a few years back, I think. GBH. I was just listening to Carcass yesterday. I've never been a huge Carcass fan, and it came on by accident. and it was not bad. So I listened to like the first four songs. I'm trying to remember what album it was. Probably still have it up on my Spotify thing. It was Swan Song. Is that what it's called? It sounded like it was maybe something a little bit more commercial than how I remember them being. I'm not a huge death metal fan. I'm really picky about death metal. Like I like Obituary, I like some of Death's stuff, but I'm not a big fan of things like Cannibal Corpse and just the vocals. They're hard for me to stomach. I like a lot of the resurgence of the crossover stuff, like Lich King and Municipal Waste and oh, there's a ton of bands like that came out in the last 5-10 years that I like a lot. Because Swan Song is kind of the worst album. I I wondered that. Judging by the album cover, it looked like it looks like something that maybe came out in the '90s. Can't tell if there's a year on this. '96, okay. And then they had probably changed their sound to something. There's a lot of metal bands that did that at the time. Exodus did that and put out a god awful album in the '90s. Even Slayer changed a little bit. The one band that never seemed to change after Rain and Blood. Man, I could talk music all day. Full Speed Ahead. Oh, the DRI. Yeah, I pretty much like all DRI stuff, except for I will admit that um, while I do like crossover, um, that was the beginning of my deep love for DRI. I had dealing with it. Actually, I think I heard crossover before dealing with it, maybe. But when I heard dealing with it, that solidified my love big time. And and they got, there's no denying they went a lot more metal with Thrash Zone and stuff like that. And so I still liked it, but not like dealing with it. Yeah, man, I'm a big fan of that record. I think because I was kind of closed minded when I was younger, and when a band would change, I would get kind of disappointed. Like when, because I was just closed minded musically, and I wanted all of my punk to be super fast, super obnoxious, and rude. And I couldn't even get into the Ramones at the time. So when Suicidal Tendencies put their second album out, I got kind of disappointed about that. And join the army. While it's a good album, it's not like the first. And then DRI was doing that. There was a couple bands that were doing that. Just it was disappointing to me. But then as I got older, I could appreciate like the DRI stuff, and I think that has a lot to do with so much bad music was being put out that when bad music is being put out, especially like nowadays, you can really go back and appreciate all that stuff that you hated before. It gives you a different perspective. And I think that's probably what happened with me with a lot of the stuff that I enjoy nowadays. Nuclear Assault, yeah. My best friend Aaron had both of the, I think it was the first one or two, and we listened to them all the time. Game Over, I think was one of them. And then when Survive, I think it's called, came out, I bought that. That's when they went a little bit more commercial. And Survive, I think, is the last Nuclear Assault album that I bought. But I do like them. I know my oldest boy doesn't. He doesn't like dude's vocals, which I can understand, I guess. Handle with Care. I'm not sure. I'd have to look at the album cover and see if I'd listen to that one or not. What year did that come out? 89? 89. Isn't that when Survive came out? Or did Survive come out in 90? Survive must have come out in 90. No, 88. Huh. Yeah, I think Game Over is the one that we used to spin all the time. And then I got, man, I thought there was one more. I thought there was one that had like a black and green cover. Maybe not. Handle with Care. I'll have to check it out. Is Dan Lomka in it? Yeah, okay, he is. Slipknot ripped him off. Yeah, I believe it. Alice Cooper too with Deeper. Alice Cooper ripped it out. Deeper. That sounds like. Is that a newer song? Hmm. Yeah, Dragontown. Dragontown. I never even listened to. I stopped liking Alice after. Oh man, what was that record called? Constrictor or Raise Your Fist and Yell. One of those two albums right there. I was like, oh man, this doesn't sound like Alice Cooper. This sounds like '80s hair metal or something to me. But then he put out Dirty Diamonds, and that is a great album. And then he put Along Came a Spider, and that's a good one too. I had lost all faith. So there's a couple albums in between Constrictor um, and up until Dirty Diamonds that I don't think that I've heard all the way through. Yeah, I saw that. King Roberts. As a matter of fact, when I saw Alice Cooper, that's who was playing guitar was King. That was a great show. I was trying to get my oldest to go see Alice last year. He's not a huge fan, but I'm like, Alice is going to be dead one day, and you're going to look back and you'll be like, oh, I had the opportunity to go see him. I wish I would have now because now I like him. And now you can't see him get hanged or fed to the guillotine. The Eyes of Alice Cooper. Maybe that's the one I'm thinking. Is there one called Along Came a Spider? I think there is. Welcome to My Nightmare 2 was okay, but I think that might be the one that had the one of these albums that I was enjoying, The Along Came a Spider. Yeah, one of these albums that I was enjoying had what's that crap? Um, the voice thing that the pop stars do all the time, auto tune, and I was so turned off by it. I didn't understand why he would do something like that. There may have even been some rap or something on there. I can't remember. Yeah, I've never heard Dragon Town. I've never heard Brutal Planet. I think I've heard some of Last Temptation. I've never heard Hey Stupid. I think I've heard one song from Trash. Actually, I think I gave up on Alice from the inside when I was like, because I was into Alice really early. I do remember liking some of Special Forces though when I was a kid, like that song Clones. But then when Constrictor came out, I remember being excited and then being disappointed. I still listen to Alice Cooper on the regular, but it's usually Welcome to My Nightmare. I love it to death. I actually kind of liked the song Poison when it first came out because it's catchy. But yeah, it just feels like something that was made to be written to be a hit. Easy Action, no thanks, man. I can hardly get through Easy Action or Pretties for You. That stuff, I don't know, man. Yeah, Dada, I haven't heard enough of that album to have an opinion. Like Zipper Catch a Skin, Dada or Dada. Um, I haven't heard enough of them to, I guess, know if I really like them or not. But I know that he doesn't even remember them. What's up, Gregor? Yeah, dude, I don't like Easy Action. Sorry, man. And especially Pretties for You. It's just I don't like early Pink Floyd either. I don't like anything before metal. I like my Pink Floyd with David Gilmour. It's just too out there for me. There's one early Pink Floyd song I like, maybe two, but I think it's because Voivod made the song popular. Astronomy Domine or Astronomy Domini, whatever it's called. I can't remember. Yeah, I'm not a fan of the early Floyd. I think my love starts at metal and goes all the way to the end, including all of David Gilmour's solo stuff. I can talk music more than I can talk books, more than I can talk movies, even probably. I just, you guys probably haven't heard of this band. I just picked up a CD called by a band called Moonshot, Moon Shot. They're from like Finland or Switzerland or something like that. It's very, to me, it reminds me of Coheed and Cambria meets Taking Back Sunday meets. Oh, there's another band. U2. It's U2 meets Coheed and Cambria and TBS. Really good stuff, man. I really like that record. It's very I don't know, especially the first like four songs on that record are great. I'm not saying you'll like it. I have no idea. You might hate it. It is rather radio friendly as far as the melodies go, but um, I had never heard of them before. I think I saw the song on there is like a year or so ago on Blabbermouth, and then I was like, oh, that's not bad. And then like maybe 2 months ago, I listened to some more of the album, and I really really liked it a lot. Yeah, it is hard to say because you don't know what's going to scratch any particular itch. Like I can't really put my finger on why I like Moonshot as much as I do. I don't know. I just do. Sponge, weren't they popular in the '90s, or am I thinking of some other band like Snot or something? I don't know. Yeah, man, the Misfits. You know, I even like American Psycho album. I mean, not as much as like every other album, but I do like American Psycho. I thought it was a good attempt. Just not nearly as good as anything they did with Glenn. What's your favorite Misfits album? Mine's Static Age. It used to be Earth AD because that was my first Misfits record, but that's I still like it. It might be one of my least favorite now. Yeah, if you pretend that they're two different entities, you can appreciate it more. There's a couple songs from Famous Monsters I like. I haven't really heard some of the other ones, and then things just got embarrassing. I saw that Black Flag just played a festival. Black Flag. Um, Talk about embarrassing. I saw some footage from it, and it's slow. They've had Mike uh, Vallely on vocals for the last several years. The pro skater. Nothing, nothing about it feels like Black Flag. Yeah, Walk Among Us is a great album. I like that one too a lot. Love it. Oh, dude, yeah, Off. I'm always sporting. One of my author photos, I have a off hat on. I have two off hats. I love Off. Them and Scowl, a female fronted band, are the two best hardcore bands that have come out in the last decade or more. I love Off. And they just put a new album out or are putting a new album out, playing some shows. It's a little different than some of their other stuff. It's a little bit more, I guess, experimental. I heard one or two songs from it. They've got a video out that's crazy. They always have crazy videos. But Off is great. They sound like what Black Flag should be sounding like. I never really did get into Anti Flag, not for any particular reason. They're just one of those bands that uh, I just kind of missed my radar. That I just never really paid attention to. You know, not any reason in particular. I just Static Age is likely my favorite. Yes, man. That is, it's got the best sound quality. That's the problem with Misfits is if someone says they don't like the Misfits, I kind of get it. You gotta ignore the horrible production and just appreciate the songwriting and the fact that every Misfits song is just an earworm that you can't get out of your head all day long. All those woes. Lodi? Lodi. What's that? New Jersey? Is that what you're talking about? Is that I feel like that's the city that Glenn and the boys are from. Am I right? All earworms are good unless it's Smash Mouth, which have two of the worst songs I've ever heard in my life. I can't stand that band. Man, I hate that band. You know what I was listening to the other day was Creed. I don't buy into that bandwagon that people jump on with Creed and Nickelback and stuff. I'm not a Nickelback fan, but they're definitely not the worst band. And I do like some Creed songs. And I don't care. Who cares? Who knows? Glenn's high school looked pretty middle class. List. Yeah, I hear what you're saying, Gregor. Did you, Steve? Did you think that Lodi High School was some ghetto? Were you disappointed? Because Glenn is just such a hard ass. That's funny. Man, that dude takes himself way too seriously. I'll tell you that. I think he's the one of the best songwriters that has ever lived. But man, that guy takes himself seriously. Never met him. Never even been in a position to. I did an interview. I used to have a punk rock magazine, and I did interview Bobby Steele and um, Mike Hideous, who sang for the Misfits after Glenn, just for a minute. Yeah, him getting knocked out. I don't know what it is. I pretend that video doesn't exist because I like to think Glenn's as tough as he pretends to be. I mean, I know he is. I know he's been in his fair share of fights at shows, and he's not afraid to throw down. Maybe he is these days, but yeah, that video was embarrassing. Danzig was in good shape at that time too. I saw Misfits with Mike Hideous. I was gutted it wasn't Graves. Did he not do a good job? I've seen some footage, but I didn't pay. I wasn't a Mike Hideous fan when I did the interview. I was just a Misfits fan, and I knew I was never going to be able to talk to Glenn. So grab Bobby Steele. We'll grab um, Mike Hideous. I was considering trying to get Michael Graves on Paleo Cheese when I was doing the Paleo Cheese podcast, just because he seems like a nice guy. Um, I find it very interesting that he's a born again Christian and unfortunately a proud boy, but he seems like a really cool guy and maybe misunderstood. I know he means well. Seems to. Yeah, Bobby Steele had a band. I think he sent me a CD by the Undead that had eyes on the front, and I remember liking a couple of the songs. I wasn't a huge fan. That was in a time in my life where I was trying desperately to find horror horror punk stuff, and I did end up meeting some other bands like Mr. Monster And man, I can't remember some of the other bands that did a fairly decent job at trying to sound like a horror themed doo-wop punk band. Not too bad. Blitzkid. Yes, one of the members from Blitzkid was in a band called Mr. Monster. His name was Jason Trioxin, and I got to know him a little bit. He was a really cool guy. He sent me a bunch of stuff in the mail. That's Mr. Monster is maybe one of the best horror rock bands I've heard. Unfortunately, Jason died. Uh, I don't know how. I don't know how. I think it may have been drug related, but he died within the last, I think, 6 or 7 years. And he played. He knew a lot of those other bands, and he played with Michael Graves' band for a while too. I don't know if he just toured or if he was, um, doing like if he was recording or just touring. I don't know. Rosedales. I haven't heard them. I'm gonna write that down. I still like to find the horror rock bands. The Rosedales. Definitely gonna check that out. Yeah, I'm up for hearing bands that want to try to sound like the Misfits. I mean, why not? We could use more of that music because I don't think the original guys are gonna put anything new out. I heard them talking about it one time. I think it was Glenn mentioning something about maybe recording something at some point. How cool would that be? But quite honestly, I would think at some point. How cool would that be? But quite honestly, I would like to see them have a good producer, somebody like Rick Rubin who can take them back to the roots and make them listen to all the stuff they were listening to when they um, first came out, which is something I guess he usually or he does often. But Rick Rubin also produced the first few Danzig albums, which everybody knows are the best ones. And then when Glenn tries to produce his own stuff, it just doesn't. It doesn't. It's a shame. It doesn't turn out very well. My guess, by having another guitar player, I'm guessing. I don't know who the guy was. Looked like a younger dude, but I'm guessing it's to fatten the sound, as well as make up for all of Doyle's mistakes, because he's a showman more than he is a guitarist, and he'll probably be the first to admit that he's not a great guitar player. I've heard him say before that he knows the only songs he knows to play are the ones that he wrote or was involved with. He's more noted for his image, which he's got a cool image, than he is his guitar playing. Though he's got a heck of a underrated down pick that's on par with like James Hetfield's down pick and the Ramones. He was in Murder Dolls. I haven't listened to them either. Not very familiar with him. You think Doyle's? Wow, you know what? If you're talking about Doyle's albums being ghostwritten, you might be right, man. He's not an idiot, but he doesn't strike me as somebody very smart either. I hate talking trash about him because I love Misfits so much, and I think Doyle's cool. But if I found out that he wasn't writing all these riffs, it wouldn't surprise me in the least. I, I'd buy that. Oh, hey man, it would be easy to believe though, honestly. I haven't really listened to much of Doyle's, like what was that, Gorgeous Frankenstein, and then of course Doyle. I haven't really listened to a whole lot of that. I do like his singer's band though. I've heard some of that stuff. Cancer Slug, is that what they're called? There's one song in particular I like a lot from that band. Talk about a dude who wishes he were Danzig. He wishes he was either Danzig or Hugh Jackman. That guy does that old school like self abuse stuff on stage, cutting himself all up and make himself bleed. He gets all GG Allen. Speaking of GG Allen, my son, my youngest, is 17, and he recently fell in love last year with the Misfits and with the Cure, which are two of my favorite bands. It's not something that I necessarily turned him on to. It just happened. I guess he probably heard it over the years being played in the house all the time, and he just picked up on it on his own. But he was listening to some playlist that he had made at school while he was in class, and he said he heard a song come on, and he was like, "What the heck is this?" Because it had reached the end of his playlist, and then Spotify just kind of takes over. He said it was GG Allen, and I was like, "Oh man, dude, don't be listening to no GG Allen." He said he didn't really like it, but thought it was funny because he was familiar with GG. I was like, "What song was it?" Because man, some of GG's lyrics, they're not bad at all, but some of them, like that song "10-Year-Old" that he has, man, the PMRC is out there chasing after Twisted Sister and Wasp and stuff, and meanwhile, Gigi's just writing all this horrendous pedophilia lyrics. I do like "Bite It, You Scum." I do. It's a good song. It's weird when you hear of Gigi, you have expectations, um, and then you hear his music, and you're like, especially early music, and you're like, "This is it. This is Gigi Allen." You either expect it to be total noise, just just guttural screams, and you don't expect it to sound like early like his early stuff, like power pop. Kind of like when somebody hears Alice Cooper for the first time in the '70s, and he's got all these ballads and stuff. It's like, this is Alice Cooper. This is what my parents have been so afraid of. It's hilarious. Ghost is like that too, and so are the Misfits actually, because um, you're listening to this, doo wop, influenced stuff, and then you read the lyrics. Actually, Misfits is kind of the opposite. You listen to the songs, very catchy, doo wop influenced clearly, and then you read the lyrics, and it's like, what the. James Fecho, thanks for hanging out, man. We covered Last Caress by the Misfits and Twist of Cain by Danzig back in the day. Very cool. I've never covered a Misfits song. Or yeah. I was in a band once who covered Hate Breeders. I forgot. My wife is a huge fan of the first Danzig record, which, if you knew her, is crazy to think about. She's very wholesome, but she loves that record. I hated that Danzig record when it came out because I was such a huge Misfits fan that it just felt like such a disappointment. I was expecting, same with Sam Hain. I was just expecting something way different, and so I didn't really care for it. But now, for the past several years, I've grown to really like that record a lot. Yeah, Danzig 1 through 3 are great. Yeah, it's weird when somebody puts a record out there like that. You just have these expectations, and then over time, you learn to appreciate what they were doing. I think at the time that it came out, I was still in my everything needed to be fast and raw and rude, and it wasn't. It was polished and it was slow, and I just didn't get it. As I was mentioned earlier, a lot of punk rock that I was into or wasn't into at the time, that a lot of my friends were, I couldn't get behind either, like the Ramones or even some of the Misfit stuff, like Legacy Brutality. I remember when I heard that record, and it had songs on there like, um, I was used to Earth AD and stuff like Bullet, and so hearing something like Spinal Remains, I just I wasn't a big fan of. I saw the light years later. Yeah, that is. I think my favorite is really the first one, and then the second one. Metallica's Black Album was like that for me. Why, you didn't like it? Is it because I didn't like it either? I tried, I tried really hard, but I had come into Metallica when they were. Um, I saw them on the Master Puppets tour, but I got into them in for Ride the Lightning, and I had been into them for years. And then the Black Album came out, and everyone went nuts, and I was like, no, I don't like this. I tried, but And I still try. When I put it on, I'm just like, man, I just really don't. Maybe if the songs were cut in half, they like to do the long songs, but when the riffs in those songs are not as appealing as some of the earlier stuff, it makes it even worse for me. Black Acid Devil, yes. I'm not as familiar with it because it's one that I don't go to that often. End of Time is awesome. Another former Sam Hain song. I have a hard time with Sam Hain. I just bought, I think it was a year or two ago, I just bought one of them on CD because I couldn't believe I found it. What the heck is it? I don't think it was November. It was the other one. The Latin one. I can't remember what it's called. What is that called? Initium or something like that. I can't remember. Yeah, I was in a band that played Enter Sandman. It was a bar band that I was in, and I was tired of it. I did like um, the ballad they had on there. I don't really like it anymore, but what was that? Nothing Else Matters. I did like that at the time, but because I do like their ballads, like Fade to Black and Sanitarium. Fade to Black was my favorite Metallica song for decades, and I knew I had to learn it how to play it on guitar. It was like bucket list for me at the time. Dude, yeah, Archangel. That's the one that I like, man. It sounds like a Misfit song. I think actually a lot of that stuff is supposed to be for supposed to be Misfit songs. It was either that or Earth AD was supposed to be Sam Hain songs. Either one of those makes sense because Earth AD does not sound anything like the rest of the Misfits catalog, even though it's great. But some of that stuff is just pure hardcore, man. Death Comes Ripping, Green Hell. The Thing That Should Not Be. That's a good song. I think my favorite from that record is Battery. I love that song. And I like Master Puppets too, but this it's gotten a little old, I guess, by this point. I had the vinyl Earth AD with the flip side was called Wolf's Blood. I remember that. I remember that because I borrowed it from uh, my my. I wanted to get a Misfits tattoo. This was in '87. I wanted to get a Misfits tattoo, and I ran into this guy. Nobody in my town did tattoos. There was no tattoo shop open or anything. And this guy did tattoos, and I wanted the Misfits skull, but I didn't know how to get a copy of it. I didn't have a shirt, so my girlfriend at the time said, "Well, I got a friend who has those records that you like. We can go over there and see if he's got one." And he did, and he had that, and he had Sam Hain on vinyl too, and he had that Wolf's Blood thing. And so I borrowed one of the records and I took it to the guy, and he gave me this horrendous Misfits tattoo skull on my forearm that I got covered up eventually. I mean, I was very proud of it, but I eventually got it covered up maybe 12 years ago with a legit skull that looked much, much better, very professional. from my friend Bobby, who actually passed away about a year ago. But yeah, he was good. He fixed that up, covered the old tattoo and everything. I think you could still maybe see an old line in there. Yeah, you could still see some of it. But so I kind of have two Misfits tattoos. One is 36 years old. I don't know what my favorite Metallica song is now. Maybe I really like Spit Out the Bone. It's not my favorite, but I really like that song. My favorite album used to be Kill 'Em All, but I think it's Ride the Lightning, which was my first. I really like that one a lot. And I like it when they do covers because they make them their own, and I think they do a great job at it. Those Misfits covers that they did, which I'm so glad they did, so that a lot of people got turned on to Misfits from that. I would say most people got turned on to Misfits from that. From Green Hell, Las Caress, on the 598 EP. Red the Lake was the first time you saw them live. Wow, that was a long time ago. It must have been a smaller venue. When I saw them for the Puppets tour, obviously Cliff was still alive. They were opening for Ozzy Osbourne, and I was really there to see Ozzy, but I was also into Metallica um, heavily at the time, but not as much as Ozzy, man. Cause we're talking 80s. Ozzy was just huge. Force Fed by Prong. I'm not that familiar with Prong, except for that one album that Pusshead did the cover for, and I don't remember what the name of that album. I don't think it's called Force Fed, but I'm not that familiar with them. I did listen to a newer song that they did, just like man, like a week or two ago. They have something new out. Pusshead. I don't. He hasn't done an album cover in forever. I don't even know if he does artwork anymore, or if he's alive. Saw them in '87. Jason's first UK experience. Jason, pardon me. Jason is from Battle Creek, Michigan, which is where I'm sitting right now. It's where I was born, where I grew up. He went to Gull Lake High School. I never knew him though. I have a friend who did. Who used to hang out with him back in high school. He might be in Arizona, but he's from Battle Creek, Michigan. You can Google it, sir. I had just gotten into Fate's Warning and Merciful Fate around the time. I never got into either of those bands. I remember my friend was into Merciful Fate, and he had, I think it was Melissa, and I would listen to it, and I just thought it was hilarious. The vocals, I just couldn't get behind the falsetto vocals that he was doing. And I thought the whole Satan was doing. And I thought the whole Satan thing was just absolutely hilarious. And which made it even harder to get into Merciful Fate. But I do recall liking one song, or at least part of called Into the Coven. Yeah, King Diamond is hilarious, man. Especially now. It's like, dude, you're like a grandpa now. You're still doing the devil thing. Kind of like Kerry King with his lyric writing. It's like, really, dude? I know you're pissed and you hate God, and but wow, you're an old man now. Let's think about something else. Candlemass. That's another band that I just never took the time to listen to. I might even know. I might even like them. I know. The whole Satan thing has always turned me off. Not so much when I was younger, but in my teens, I think I just thought I don't know. I just thought it was really silly, and I had a hard time taking these people seriously. I guess Danzig is the exception because no one takes themselves more seriously than Glenn Danzig, and that dude loves singing about the devil. But maybe it's because he does it in a more creative way that I could appreciate it rather than just some silly, blatant way. I don't know. I always thought many riffs from Merciful Fate was very close to what Metallica was doing. They were huge. They were huge fans, so that makes sense. They even covered one of their songs later on too. In small doses, I can enjoy it. Like King Diamond, yeah. Glenn Benton. I don't know who that is. Glenn Benton. Is that just an artist or is that somebody in a band? Never got into King Diamond, only as Merciful Fate. I have noticed a difference because I did try to give both of those bands a shot maybe last year or the year before because my friend John Bowden likes them. And I think he went and saw them in concert and was like, oh, I'm going to try them again. Because I do that with bands. I've done that with the Grateful Dead for decades, and I'm convinced at this point I will never like the Grateful Dead. I just do not like that band. And I never will. I don't like bluegrass music. And I just don't get it. But there have been bands or whole genres of music that I will give a shot. The Ramones is one of those bands where it just took me a while to appreciate them because I was used to stuff that was much more hardcore. Deicide. Glenn Benton is from Deicide. Okay. There's another satanic band for you. That's another band too that I just didn't take the time really to listen to too much. But I know a little bit about them is all. Was mentioned, I don't know who all was in here earlier when I talked about how I'm going to probably post what I'm working on right now. I'm probably going to post it. Probably going to post it online. I'm using my new drawing pad, my Gaiman 22-inch. It's a giant beast drawing pad, digital, and trying my hand at some digital stuff that I that I don't normally do, with the hopes of getting better and broadening what I can do with book covers and just art in general, I guess. It's been fun. I've been having fun with it. See, as you can see, man, I seriously can talk music all day. If somebody is up for it, I am always up for it. What do you guys think of Mike Patton? Is he not the greatest frontman that's ever lived, or what? Not only the greatest singer, but the greatest frontman. He's just unpredictable and wild and not at all boring to watch. It's an original piece. It's kind of like it's a very man, you know what? Maybe I'll just turn my camera on it and I'll show you what I'm doing. Yeah, I think I'll turn my camera on it and show you guys. It's this. This is what I've been doing. Basically says Twitter sucks. You're a beautiful person. And Twitter makes you ugly. Or Twitter's ugliness wants to make you ugly. Because we all freaking hate Twitter. Necessary evil. Apple is using AI to narrate audiobooks now. Yeah. And people are trying to write books with it too. It's kind of scary. I have used AI art in covers. Most of my covers I have not. But the ones that I have, I don't just put in a prompt and lay text over. It's like there are some covers I've done, if I'm using AI art, that have used several different pieces of AI art and digital paint and photos. So I just do a mashup, and I know that some artists have used it as like a tool in their toolbox, which is what I've done. I've been getting away from it more because people want to crucify you if you're using it. But I think the thing with this digital art that I'm doing right here, people shun that at one point, and it's just going to get to a point where these artists who are bitching about it, they're going to be using it for maybe not creating, giant pieces, but creating parts of pieces, which is what I've used it for in the past. I don't think I've used it on any of my own covers, but I used it on some some commission pieces and a few pre-mates, but very few. What I caught looked very good. Sorry, Gregor, I held it for a little while. Maybe I didn't hold it long enough. Thanks, James. Cool, you did a book cover with similar colors. Did I? Probably. I'm a big fan of pink, purple, and blue. So it wouldn't surprise me if I did do a book cover with similar colors. This actually has photos in it as well. It's not all digital paint. There's photos where I'm using texture in it. It's just something I'm experimenting with. I don't look at it and think it's an amazing thing, but I think the statement is cool. A statement that's been done a lot in other pieces of art. I wrote a short story with AI. We alternated paragraphs. It did a really good job. Yeah, I messed around with it a little bit out of curiosity for a book that I started writing. I haven't told anybody this, not even patrons, but I started a book called, and I have the cover, and the cover is freaking hilarious. It's all done. The book is called Manson Family Arcade, and it's exactly what you think it is. The Manson family owns an arcade in Southern California, and they run it in the 80s. It's a what do they call that? Historical fiction or a retelling of whatever. Cult exists, the murders don't. But I haven't told anybody about it yet, except for whoever's in here right now. And the cover is great. It's very 80s looking. And I remember when I first started it, I typed into, because I was like, I wonder what, I started hearing about this ChatGPT AI stuff. And so I typed in my idea for the book that I had already started writing to see what kind of synopsis it would give me. And it was pretty hilarious. And I had this whole storyline about how Charlie Manson owned a arcade and all this stuff. It was a different direction than what my, and how he was, he had a bad rep, and then people found out he wasn't a good guy, or he wasn't a bad guy, through this arcade, and he started planting arcades throughout the, became a chain. That's not at all what my book is about, but it was funny to see that. An artist using AI as a tool isn't so bad. The problem I have is using it to cut the artist out of the process money-wise. I agree, man. I agree. When AI came out, specifically Midjourney, I had just bought Photoshop and a brand new expensive computer, and I was like, I'm gonna do the best job I can. I'm gonna just be a great cover artist, and I'm just gonna take the time to learn stuff that I don't know yet. And then I did that for about maybe 3 or 4 weeks, and then all of a sudden Midjourney's everywhere, and I was so pissed and scared, because this is I wanted to be making money between writing and doing covers, and I got really pissed, and I vowed to not touch it, not use it. And then I don't know, I read some articles, watched some videos. I saw it was getting even better. And I thought, this is going nowhere. This is here to stay. So I need to either, shun it and pretend it's not happening and be pissed, or I need to embrace it a little bit. And so I decided to embrace it and use it as a tool instead of. I have seen some people who they take a prompt, and you can always tell the non-artists who do this, because their titles, their fonts are horrendous, their placement is bad. The art is cool. It's because they didn't do it, but they don't know the first thing about graphic design or title placement, font choice, color, all that stuff, and it just looks bad. And I see some of those floating around, and I've been seeing album covers from newer bands and even movies. There was a Netflix movie recently that is using, I think it was Sandman. Neil Gaiman's Sandman was using AI in their poster. And I just saw it on an album, or at least it's artwork for a single for David Ellefson's new band, Lucid. And they're clearly using AI art. So I know it's going to continue to be used, and I feel bad for the artists who have gone to school and spent tens of thousands of dollars investing in their craft, and then to have something like this happen. Because I lost a couple jobs because of AI, essentially, and that's why I had to really buckle down with writing, because I got laid off because of computers taking over my job more than once. And then all of a sudden here it's happening again. And now how long before you have all these ghostwritten books, and people are just churning out books that have been written by AI. It's a scary thought. So it's like, well, I'm 53 next month. What am I going to do for like retirement if my computers are taking my job? It's scary. So I'm trying to find the line that I can walk where I use it as a tool, because, like I said, it's not going anywhere. But lately, I haven't used any AI in my covers, and if somebody is cool with it, I'm cool with making them. But like I said, I don't just, there's a lot of prompts and images that go into creating the covers that I do. Normally, I think there's one cover I did where I just slapped a really cool, that I didn't do a whole lot to. I did some lighting and shading, and then all the font placement and maybe the background. But the book you're talking about, Steve, it had a house on it. Was it one of my own books, or was it just a book that I did? I think I know what you're talking about. I think one day you will tell Amazon, give me a horror book, 250 pages in the style of Dinar Koontz, and AI will create it for you. Man, don't say that. I won't buy a book or a book cover created by a non-human. Yeah, some people are going there. I think people who have that stance, their minds will eventually change, just because I think that, well, first of all, the AI has gotten so good that it's going to be hard for you to tell. I took off all of my AI pre-mades off of my website. I had a few on there, but I took them down just because it feels too soon to do something like that, to tackle something like that. And I've talked with graphic artists who are adamantly against it, and I understand why. I get it. I understand why. I get it. I don't think anybody should be crucified for deciding they want that on their cover. Like punished or whatever. I don't agree with that. But yeah, this whole digital art thing, this style in particular, using like heavy lines and stuff rather than shading blending, is new for me. It's been cool. Neon Owl or something? No. Neon Owl just has like an owl looking through Venetian blinds. I don't know. I can't. I don't know. Spawn of Remains has kind of like purple and blue and pink in it. And Skullface Boy is like purple, blue, and pink in it. Jose, can't wait to get started. 3 Small Mile, 31 hours into the It audiobook right now. 31 hours into the audiobook. Wow. It took me 4 years to read it, man, because I'm not a big fan of that book. That is like the opposite of how I write. I love Stephen King, but it was just so loaded with fluff, and it's the opposite of what I normally like to read, and certainly the opposite of what I write. The 45-hour long book. Wow. Yeah, but some people like that. Some people like that fluff where it just they do super deep dives into characters or history of a location. Yeah, I didn't hate. I will say this about it. I have a hard time. Like, by the time that I read it, I had seen so much Pennywise crap. I'd already seen the horrible miniseries, Pennywise shirts, Pennywise just swag, just Pennywise everywhere for the last couple of decades. So going into it was just, I was already tired of it. So that was against it. And I think that was a big part of why I didn't enjoy it as much. I knew so much about it. Plus clowns. Clowns have never scared me. I don't understand I know it gets some people, but clowns just don't do it for me at all. I think they're silly when they are trying to be scary. The only clown that I ever thought was scary was in the movie Hell House LLC. There's a clown in there that I thought was legitimately creepy. But other than that, clowns, they're silly to me. They're the opposite of giving me any kind of heebie-jeebies. But had I read it back in the day, because I've read books of kings that are just packed full of fluff. The Tommyknockers is one of them that I really liked a lot. I liked Tommyknockers, but it was a lot of fluff in there too, a lot of cushion. But yeah, I think it was just it's like having a favorite song and then all of a sudden finding yourself not enjoying it anymore. Like, I'm a huge Black Sabbath fan, and I don't deny the fact that War Pigs and Iron Man are two of their best songs, but who wants to hear those songs anymore? Same with Stairway to Heaven. It's like Zeppelin's a great band, but who wants to hear Stairway to Heaven again? It's been ruined by the radio. I hate all the movies. All of the It movies. Are we talking? I think I was expecting a lot of Pennywise, and so far he's like 20% of the story. Yeah. Yeah. He's not in it a whole lot. At least he's not always a clown. So he's got that going for him. It's different for everyone. Yes, radio ruins a lot of songs. Yes, it does. Radio. That's why I haven't listened to the radio literally in decades. I won't listen to the radio. There was a time when I was a kid, I, for some reason, I had it in my head that DJs and just radios stations in general weeded out all of the best music that was available on the planet and gave it to you, and you're not going to be able to find better music than what's being played on the radio. And then when I was 14, I heard punk rock for the very first time, and a friend of mine made me a compilation tape with different bands on it, like Plasmatics and The Misfits, Gangrene, MDC, Suicidal Tendencies, and I was smitten. And it was soon after that I, and then I discovered like thrash metal and like early Metallica, and I realized that the best stuff is not being played on the radio at all. Quite the opposite. It's these days, quite the opposite these days. So I decided to stop listening to the radio and just, get turned on to music by other people. And then, every once in a while I'd have it on, like if I was at a place, I worked somewhere where they always had to have it on or something. But by choice, I haven't turned on a radio in at least 20 years, probably. Sabbath still rules. Yes, Sabbath will always rule for sure. But if you're listening to Black Sabbath, do you want to hear Paranoid or do you want to hear Hand of Doom? Even though at one point you might have appreciated one song more than the other, like Paranoid more than Hand of Doom. So much dense backstory. Yes, I remember the Stephen King going on and on about the history of the bar that burned down. I think it was it a bar that burned down, and the whole history of that really tore me right out of. Yeah, you hate all the It movies. I've only seen the miniseries, which I didn't like, and then I saw the first It movie of the newer ones. I haven't seen the second one. The first one had some decent parts in it, but the ending as predicted, just was bad for me. I didn't like it. I thought the same. Once my old band tried to start getting radio play, it was like, oh, this is just money in politics. Yeah. There's so many bands, great bands that you don't hear, like really talented bands like Take It Back Sunday or Coheed and Cambria or Mars Volta that you're just not going to hear on the radio. And of course, there's whole genres that you're never going to hear on the radio that might scratch the itch for you. Like, thank God for my friend in high school who turned me on to punk because I never would have heard it otherwise. Yes, the best is not on the radio. Agreed. I mean, Suicidal Tendencies, guess who they opened for? Suicidal, who did they open for? Like, what year are we talking? Who knows who they opened for? I don't know, like Fleetwood Mac or something. Wheels of Confusion is my favorite from Volume 4. I love Volume 4, but man, the production is not great on that record. What did you think of AI Chucky? I don't like Chucky. I don't like the Child's Play movies. I can't stand the first movie. But ironically, I thought the remake of Chucky was great. I really like that one. Hey, what's up, Lee? Thanks for stopping by. Just doing some artwork on my drawing pad thing. I know you can't see what I'm drawing, but trust me, I'm drawing, painting digitally. Love Taking Back Sunday. Played Warped Tour the same year they did, 2012. Nice, man. What was the name of your band, Jose? Yeah, Taking Back Sunday is a great band. And I love that they're so prolific and they just continue putting stuff out. I mean, I'll never like one of their albums as much as Tell All Your Friends, probably, but Divided by Friday. Was it it was like an emo-ish kind of thing? It's the name sounds like something like that, like maybe I don't know, Jimmy Eat World or Thursday or something. Just pop punk turned pop rock. Hopeless Records. You were on Hopeless Records. Nice, dude. That's awesome. I think I have a Hopeless Records t-shirt. I can't remember. That's awesome, dude. I will have to check it. Divided by Friday. I will definitely check out your band. Pop punk is my guilty pleasure. Yeah, I don't believe in guilty pleasures, but I know what you're saying, man. Like, I'm a Blink-182 fan. And I liked, I think some of my favorite pop punk bands were like Screeching Weasel is probably my favorite pop punk band. I love Screeching Weasel. But yeah, I like Blink, MXPX. I like MXPX first couple records. I'll say that. Yeah, it sounds like you made some memories there, man. That's great. Hopeless Records, signed at 19. Very, very cool. You've probably got some cool touring and band stories, memories. Like, yes. I get complaints. Jose, have you read The Same Deep Water as You or Slow Burn on Riverside? I get complaints sometimes from people who, I mean, for the most part, people like those books, but they can be alienating if you let things like punk or the skating scene interfere with your appreciation of the book, because there's a lot of that in there. New Found Glory is your favorite. I do like one or two of their songs, but I can't remember the name of them. This year, I'm challenging myself to draw every day. It's going well so far, so I have to ask you, what are 3 things that helped you grow as an artist? Drawing every day and drawing things that you don't necessarily want to draw, but you know they're going to help. I remember learning that in, I think it was in high school, learning some of the dumbest or drawing some of the dumbest stuff, like still life things. But you put in the time to learn that kind of thing, and it pays off because then everything that you learn drawing this dumb stuff, you end up using later. I would also encourage you to learn figure drawing. I'm not great at that, man, and I wish I was. So I'm in the process of teaching myself some of that right now too. It takes me way too long to draw an anatomically correct like animal or person, especially if they're at an angle that isn't straight on. That's a challenge for me. So yeah, I would do that, and just like what you're already doing. Like I said, just draw a lot. Watch videos on YouTube. Um, there's like little free courses on YouTube, or I've been taking courses because somebody gifted me a year subscription to something called 21 Draw, and there's some cool courses on there that I've been taking. I don't know how much the courses are otherwise, but yeah, that's very cool. Lee. Keep doing that, man. A red, same deep water. What was the other? My connection dropped for a second. Slow burn on Riverside, because they're part of the same same character. But there's a lot of that skateboard punk stuff. Not so much in. It's heavier in Deepwater than it is in Slow Burn. What do they complain at with those books? They just don't get the references. Well, you know how people like to connect, and if you've got a book where your protagonist has skateboard friends and they happen to skateboard in their pastime, and maybe I drop terms that they might, like grinding this handrail or landing a trick or something like that, then that might alienate some people. And if they're going to a punk show, I mean, I don't elaborate on all this stuff. It's just mentioned briefly here and there, but I can see it tearing some people away from it if they're just not familiar with, like they've never been to a punk rock show and they're not familiar with the energy there. And I might mention that in story or whatever. But they like the story. It's just that, yeah, I've noticed some reviews said that just that not being familiar with that scene pulled them out a little bit. But I didn't write it for them. I wrote it for me. So those books in particular, I wrote 100% for me. They're allowed to complain about the books. Yeah. Did you get into comic book artists like Todd McFarlane? No, and I'm nowhere near that type of art. No, I'm not a comic book fan. I read the horror comics when I was a kid, but not for the art. I'm not a comic book guy. I don't watch the comic book movies. I'm like the anti-comic book person. Not that I think they're stupid. It's just that's not me. If I was reading a magazine, it was like Fangoria or Cracked or Mad. But I never took inspiration from like art like that. I'm currently focusing on figure drawing. Good. Yeah, I think that's very, very helpful. And there's a lot of that will open up so many doors down the road learning that. And I'm just now trying to learn it the right way and learn shortcuts and learn how to comprehend some of the things that I would like to draw that I struggle with drawing. My wife is an artist as well. She does watercolor, and she doesn't draw people very well either. So she draws her own kind of style of people, but she's a great artist. She loves art. She spends a lot of her time doing art. Pardon me, man. Yeah, this is just something part of me is like, when I was dropping money on this for this digital pad, I was like, am I too old should I just continue to write? Am I too old to be like trying to learn something new and get better at it? Or should I just focus on writing and getting better at that? And put out as many books as I possibly can. But I don't know, it's like you're using two different parts of your brain. Writing isn't very relaxing for me. It's often very stressful. And artwork is stressful for me too, except for with digital art, because I'm not so worried about mistakes because they're easily fixed. And when things are done in layers, I can experiment a lot more without and without having to worry about screwing something up. Because if I screw something up, then it's usually an easy fix. It's good for your brain to learn something new. Just don't go full Barker and give up writing for visual art. Man, he can do both pretty well, can he? He's got a really unique style in his artwork. And I wonder if it's more relaxing for him to do that art than it is to write. Writing, yeah, man, writing is just, for me, I know some people just love it and it's relaxing to them. I can't do, and I can't use my mind for other stuff when I'm writing. I just have to be quiet. I can't even hardly listen to music. But when I'm drawing, I can listen to podcasts, audiobooks. I put YouTube channels on in the background and listen to them. Yeah, it keeps me more relaxed. Didn't realize that was part of the same story. Got to read that ASAP. Yeah, Slow Burn on Riverside is the prequel to Same Deep Water. Love Same Deep Water. Thanks, man. I really like that a lot too. I don't know if I like Slow Burn better or not, but they both have the same characters. It's the same writing style, and except for Slow Burn, I think the ending pays off better than Deep Water. Deep Water is a tragic love story. Slow Burn, I'm not even going to tell you because I don't want to ruin anything. But it's a little bit more cerebral, say, I guess. But I'm writing a prequel to Slow Burn. So there'll be at least three when I'm done of using those characters, maybe four. And it'll be a novel, the one that I'm doing. I don't know why I wrote them backwards like that. It was an accident. So I'll probably put them out in some big omnibus when it's done, and then people can read them in order. But you can read them in any order; it doesn't matter. But if you want to be a part of like Jex's like transition as far as becoming less of a druggie, less of a womanizer, and you know his spiritual journey, his just his life journey and finding himself, then if you want to follow that closer, then I guess read them in order, but it doesn't really matter. They're supposed to be read as standalones. He can do both well for sure, but I selfishly want the books is all. You know what, man? I have never read a Clive Barker novel. I read all of the Books of Blood and I read Hellbound Heart, but I've never read a novel. He's not a slow read. He's not something you can really, he's one of those ones where you've got to absorb every word. And maybe that is why I haven't read him, because these days I like to turn my brain off. That's why I love Lansdale so much. And it's probably why I write the way that I write, to be able to just fly through it and with your brain not, you don't have to think too hard about the words that I'm using. As a music lover, the references were spot on. Yeah, The Same Deep Water as You is essentially it's an autobiography of a year in my life and the year that I discovered The Cure and what a pivotal role that Disintegration album played in that year. And I thought it would be cool if I fictionalized that time in my life. And I did take some liberties with a few of the more dramatic moments. Or, if someone dies, I changed how they died, that kind of thing. But, man, I had a blast. I think I wrote that book in like 2 weeks. It's a short book, but I had so much fun that it went by very, very fast. And I enjoyed the heck out of it writing it. Got to run. Might catch you with 100 thing. This was. Oh, dude, thanks for the reminder. That's today. Yeah, Steve. I'll probably see you tonight, or well, I don't know what time it is where you're at, but yeah, I will see you. What I can't remember what time it was. Hunter's doing that thing, like 2, 3, 4, something 6. I don't know. I wish I could write a book like Deepwater or Slow Burn. Dude, do it, man. Just do it. Best thing to do is, I remember when I was going through the final draft of Skullface Boy, I had written the book, and I wanted to make sure that it had really super lean prose. And so I read some books, one of which was a reread for me that had that kind of prose, just to keep my mind in that mindset and be able to truly see words that didn't need to be there and to minimize it as much as I could. So if you want to write a book like that, read more books like that, and then it's not ripping somebody off, it's just being influenced. Just like if you're writing a song, if I want to write a song that sounds like Black Flag, I need to be listening to a lot of Black Flag and Circle Jerks and stuff like that. Just to have that kind of like in you, I don't know how to describe it, but it's not like stealing or anything. It's just being influenced, and it's putting you in this kind of zone, I guess. Let's Get Literary Universe is expanding. I'm trying, man. I'm trying. Just put one out yesterday. Got one coming out, I'm told, in May. We'll see. I got 2 books coming out early 2024, and I'm sure I'll have 2 more coming out this year that haven't been announced yet. So Lansdale's way smooth. I love Lansdale. And it's so witty, and just some of the stuff that he comes up with, is freaking download. It's just hilarious. Yeah, I love Lansdale. Love him. And I don't think he gets. I mean, I know he's popular, but quite honestly, he doesn't get enough love. He doesn't get. He deserves much, much more than what he's getting. And I run into readers all the time that that read a lot of the same stuff that we do, and they've never read Lansdale, and I just can't even believe it. I like to alternate between easy and more challenging reads. I hear you. Right now, I'm reading, I think, 4 books. I'm reading, and I hate when I do that. It kind of stresses me out, but I'm like a mood reader, I guess is what they're called. It's like I'm not in the mood to read this book, even though it's awesome and I'm loving it. I'm reading Blood Standard by Laird Barron, which is way better than I thought it was going to be. I'd never read Laird before. And I had Blood Standard, and I thought, I'm going to give this a shot. So it's great. Great crime book. And then I'm reading that. I'm reading Legends and Lattes by Travis Baldree, which is a cozy fantasy about an orc putting down her sword to start a coffee shop. Not normally my type of book, but I was really interested in seeing what it was about. So I'm like halfway, maybe more than halfway through that. I'm reading Helter Skelter, which is freaking super dark, and I had to put down for a while because it's just dark, man. And then I'm reading Ex Boogeyman by Christopher Triana, because Christopher Triana is scheduled to be on Bleeding Page podcast, and I wanted to read his most recent thing. So he sent me that, and I'm reading that. It's well written, not normally my type of thing, slasher books, but I'm enjoying it. I read, the only other thing I read by Triana was The Devil Cried, or is that Gabino Iglesias? It's Devil something. No, I gotta look it up because I can't remember. Devil something. Where is it? It's not even on his website. What the frick is that book called? Devil something. Anybody know what I'm talking about? Wow, he's not. Oh, okay. And the Devil Cried. Man, that was a hard read because the protagonist, written in first person, is a big, huge pedophile and nasty person, nasty human being. So, but I enjoyed it. It was a good book. I definitely feel that writing is not relaxing. Writing music lyrics just puts me into the emotional headspace I'm writing about. Yeah. Whenever I'm writing music is different than when I'm writing prose. That is, but I haven't technically written a song I did write and record one like about a year ago, but that was just kind of like a spontaneous thing. A lot of the music I wrote was when I was much more pissed off or hurt, or you get motivated by things like that. Just being scared, being pissed off, being heartbroken. It's just so easy to write songs when you're going through something, when you're mad or whatever. You thought I'm a mood reader too. Yeah, it sucks. You thought Bleeding Page died. No, we kind of took a hiatus. The end of last year was rough. Just lots of crap going in my own life. And then my dad died and stuff, and inheritance and all that kind of crap. So, we had to sell his house and empty it, and just things got really busy. But no, we had planned on jumping back and getting more guests. There's a bunch of guests that I wanted to have on there. I wanted to ask Lansdale to be on there since he was on my other podcast. I was hoping he would be on this one too. So I was thinking about asking him and a few other authors. We'll see. After 3 Small Mile, I'm diving into my first manga, Uzumaki by Junji. I bought my oldest son, what the frick? It's by that comic dude, that Junji, or however you pronounce his name. I can't remember the name of the book. Big hardcover book. Is it called Scream? I can't remember, but I read it before I wrapped it as his present because I thought I've been seeing him all over the place, and I know my son likes that artwork, and he does like some manga. So I decided to read it. It's weird, you read it backwards because of it being Asian or whatever, but it's weird because I felt like you usually want to open with the strongest stories. I felt like it closed with the strongest stories, and even in the middle, and then it opened with the absolute weakest stories in the collection. So, but the first couple stories I didn't really like at all, and then they started to get better. Uzumaki is a masterpiece, and I don't care for manga or anime. Yeah, there were some weird ideas in this one, man. The one about the tops of the heads for the family line, that was freaking weird. I don't know if anybody's read that one yet. Ever read The Conspiracy Against the Human Race by Thomas Ligotti? It's so dark and sort of reinforced my stance on anti-nationalism. No, I have never read actually any Thomas Ligotti, but I do own one of his books on this bookshelf that I think it has a clown on the cover, I think. I just finished Ex Boogeyman List. Hey, what's up, Rachel? Last night. It was awesome. Yeah, I'm like a little over halfway through. It's a cool idea for a slasher. I like it. He's pulling it off. I'm enjoying it. Can't wait to read it. After that, I have Tommy and Shiver. Shiver is the name of the book that I'm talking about, not Scream. Shiver is the one. This is the one I read. And the devil cried. Yes, thank you, Rachel. Writing music for work is different. Just kind of churn that stuff out. Oh, yeah, you're writing different type of stuff now, Jose, which I would think be much more. That's got to be a whole different kind of process for you versus writing something for your punk band, and what you're doing now just seems like that would be, and now we're using computers and stuff like that, I'm sure, the software, totally different. You got to get Brian Keene on the podcast. Maybe. I know that he had agreed to do Paleo Cheese podcast, the one I was doing a couple years ago. And then he was all about it. And then when I tried to schedule a date, ghosted me. So I don't know. I don't know Brian that well. I mean, he's I've heard him say a lot of nice things about me, but we know each other. We follow each other on Twitter, that kind of thing. And I've heard him mention me a few times in his newsletter or in his podcast or something, and to other people, because a very, very close friend of mine, John Bowden, is good friends with Brian and goes over to Brian's house and stuff. And my name's brought up often. But I don't know. We'll see. There's not a long list of people I want to get on the show, but a short list of people I would love to get on there. Stephen Graham Jones would be another one that I want to get. I really like Stephen Graham Jones' work. I like him as a person. I like his online presence. He doesn't air his BS like a lot of authors. He's quiet, and I like that. And Brian Boyer. I have read a couple of his short stories. I like that dude as a person. I like to hear him talk, man. If I see that he's posted a new video, I'll stop what I'm doing and I'll listen to him talk. He's got just a way about the way he just tells a story to your face, that he's like a natural born storyteller. But yeah, I've only read maybe 3 of his short stories, I think. Fragments of Horror. You're referring to the Junji book? No, I think it was Shiver. It's called Shiver. Yeah. I thought it was going to be, the Junji book was going to be a little bit more original, I guess I should say, than it was. I mean, it was still cool. But like I said, those first few stories were not impressive at all. They just were like rehash of stuff I'd read in comic books, in horror comics in the 70s, pretty much. Yeah, there's no denying the artwork in any of that stuff that I've seen. It's good. I like it. Man, it's afternoon. I'm going to bail out of here. If you guys are following me on social media at all, I'm sure I'm going to post what I've been working on while we were talking on here. Look at my rat tail here. Look at this. This is what happens when I go to bed and then I wake up and my hair's all trying to dread. Maybe I should just get dreads again, and then I never have to worry about my hair. That was fun. Dreads again, and then I never have to worry about my hair. That was fun. Not having to stress about brushing my hair, or I could just cut it. I'll post this little crazy digital thing that I drew, painted, whatever. So thanks for stopping in, guys. It was great talking to all of you and about books and movies, and especially music. So Rachel, Jose, Lee, Gregor, Steve, anybody else who popped in, you guys have a great day, man. I'll see you another time.